Talking Money by Stanley Gazemba, Kenya. Mukidanyi stood in his doorway and watched his elder brothers as they walked towards the compound gate. His eyes were flaming red. The three of them had almost come to blows. "Go on, get out of my compound, you two," he shouted after them, waving a thick index finger at their backs. "I don't need your help here. I don't need anyone's help at all. This is my household and I will run it as I deem fit. Understood?" Ngoziwe, the elder of the two, stopped and turned, leaning on his walking stick, the patched old greatcoat he wore hanging about his tall, thin frame like a scarecrow's weather-scoured sacking. "You say you don't need us?" he said softly, stabbing his finger at their younger brother. "Today your head has swollen like that of a child's navy head in the plowing field. Listen to us. We'll talk." "Well, you will need us one day," said the old man, with a slow nod, wiping at a line of spit snaking out of his trembling mouth. "Yes, you will eat dirt, I tell you, and you will send for us." Turning, he went on slowly out of the gate. "Jinga jinga," shouted Mukidanyi after them, waving his fists. "This here is my land, and I am going to do damn well what I please with it," he exclaimed with a loud click of the tongue, spitting angrily in the grass. So great was Mukidanyi's fury, it could only be assuaged after he had picked up a water pot left lying outside and dashed it against the wall. And as he lumbered back into the house, his neighbors, who had gathered on the path outside the compound, shook their heads and one by one retreated to their own compounds. In that terrible rage, no one dared approach him. Later that night, after the children had gone to bed, his wife Ronica came up to where he was warming himself in the main room and sat down on her little stool, drying her hands nervously on the edge of her worn dress. "Mukidanyi, my husband, you must listen to what your brothers are telling you," she pleaded. "Ngoziwe and Agoya have a point. No one can stop you doing what you please with the land, but still, selling it off needs consultation. Maybe you should think of leasing it for a period of time instead." She watched him, awaiting a response, but he said nothing. "Mukidanyi, I am speaking to you," she carried on, emboldened. "Do you even know those people you want to sell the land to? Eh? You know that hardly anyone in this village does business with the gallows. Their money is not good. We don't know where they get it from. You shouldn't turn a deaf ear to what everyone tells you, Mukidanyi." All this while Mukidanyi was sitting still, his gaze fixed on a point on the wall in front of him. All of a sudden he sprang to his feet, his hand reaching up into the smoky jambi ceiling where he kept his hippo hide whip. The woman's screams rang through the village as the blows fell, shattering the still of the dark August night. It was only in the small hours that her whimpering finally died down. Gallos's large four-wheel drive turned into the compound and drove up to the huge MS Yunzu tree, startling the cows tethered to the scarred tree trunk with the deep roar of the motor as it was turned off. Mukidanyi came out of his house and went to meet his visitors. He was dressed in the long kitten shirt that he kept at the bottom of the clothes trunk reserved for special occasions, his shepherd's hat set at an angle on his rounded head. "Karibu sana. You have kept me waiting longer than we agreed, Bwana Gallo. For a while there, I thought you would not come," he said with a bright smile, glancing at the heavy watch on his wrist, though it had stopped functioning long ago. "Ah, good day to you, Mukidanyi," said Gallo with an equally bright smile, climbing out of the vehicle. "You know I am a terribly busy man, Bwana. Sometimes I even forget my appointments." He was a stout man, round like a barrel, with a dark brown face which shone like that of a well-fed hippo. Gallo was in the company of a thin, bespectacled man whom Mukidanyi had never seen before and who wore a stiff smile that didn't quite reach his steely eyes. He was dressed in a crisp Karani's suit and carried a leather attaché case. "Well, at least you came then. I don't think anything is lost." After the introductions had been made, Mukidanyi bade them welcome into the house, but they declined. And so, they set off for the portion of the land that Gallo was eyeing down by the river. As they surveyed the land, Mukidanyi walked alongside, chatting them up. "You have seen for yourself a fine piece of land," he said after they had returned to the shade of the munzu tree. "The fertility of the land is certainly not in doubt," said Gallo, taking out a crisp, perfumed white handkerchief. "It will certainly grow good Napier grass for my cattle. What I am worried about is how my truck will access it to collect the fodder. The road here seems rather narrow. "Ah, that is a small matter, my friend," said Mukadanyi enthusiastically. "I can organize a band of boys to clear the bush along my fence. I wouldn't mind felling the trees along that side. Well, if you can organize the work team for me, I will be most willing to negotiate their pay with them," said Gallo. "That I will, Bwana. Just leave it to me. In that case, then, I suppose we negotiate." Mukadanyi had expected it to be a long tussle in which either party would tug back and forth, something he was well prepared for, given his experience buying and selling cattle at the local market. He was surprised when the wealthy man accepted his opening offer of 500,000 shillings, which he had sprung out of the blue, as was the haggling custom. Really, his intention was that they pull and push to roughly half the figure, and he was even more surprised when Gallos's slim accomplice rose and went to the car and returned shortly with another black leather briefcase. The slim man donned a pair of spectacles and opened the case. He took out a stapled sheaf of papers and scanned them briefly, entering some figures in the blank spaces with his biro, before passing it across to Mukadanyi to sign. "You can put your sign at the places marked with an X," said the man in the crisp Kiswahili tone of a cultured man who spent his days in a neat office. Now, the truth was that Mukadanyi had never been to any classroom to speak of. The few occasions his father, Kizungu, had attempted to take him to the local school, he had jumped out through the window and dashed across the yard, hopping over the school hedge and away to the marshes down by the river. There he passed his day with his friends playing simbi and roasting maize that they had carried off someone's farm. But that was not to say that the lack of a classroom education had denied him much in life. For upon after he came of age and graduated from the marshes and got married, he moved to the local cattle market where he perfected the art of buying and selling, mastering the steadfast stare with which you arrested the buyer and the firm handshake that rattled the shoulder and which sealed a deal like nothing else he knew of. Thereafter, he left the market and passed by the butchery for a cut of beef, before retiring to laugh off the day's good fortune with his buddies at the beer halls. He would steal pinches at the rump of the fat proprietress. His day ended, but right then, confronted with the papers needing his signature, he faltered. Perhaps Ngoziwe and Agoya were not so bad to have around after all. The slim man promptly surmised the cause of his discomfiture and rushed off to fetch an ink pad, to which Mukadanyi applied his thumb and transferred the prints to the places the man pointed out. It was the routine he was more accustomed to whenever he went to the local tea band where he delivered his little crop of tea for the monthly pay, and even at the bank in Kakamega for the end-of-year bonus. The messy paper business done with, Mukadanyi was even more surprised when the slim man opened the briefcase and directed it his way, exposing the contents to him. Mukadanyi had handled a bit of money in his cattle trade, but he had never seen that much money all at once. Inside the leather case, stacked in neat rows, were bundles and bundles of money and used bills that were held together with rubber bands, just like in the bank at Kakamega. "Your 500,000, Mukadanyi," said Gallo coolly, as if he was offering 200 shillings for a kilo of meat at the local butchery. "You can count it. Take your time." "Well, won't you count it?" said Gallo, his brow slightly raised after a length of time elapsed in which Mukadanyi just sat there staring at the money in the case in his lap. "We really need to be getting on our way for some other business." "Ah, I don't think there is need," said Mukadanyi nervously, passing his trembling hand over the top row. I trust you, my friend." "I don't think you would lie to a clansman, Gallo." "Well, in that case, then I suppose you release us. Still, just in case anything comes short in your counting, I will be very willing to come back and settle with you," said Gallo, with a confident smile. "I will tell you when we will be going to Kakamega to sort out the transfer and title deed at the survey office. Good day to you then, and looking forward to us being good neighbors." Long after the two visitors had climbed in the car and left, Mukadanyi sat there under the musunzu tree, clasping the black briefcase in his lap. His gaze was fixed on a point in the distant hills, trained on an object in the periphery that only he could see. And then it occurred to him that he was holding money, lots of it, in his lap. He stood up and rushed into the house, his heart thumping in his chest, dry throat craving a drink of water. He didn't eat anything for supper that evening. It was later in the night after they had gone to bed that he uttered the first words to his wife Ronica, who had stretched out next to him in their narrow termite-infested wooden bed. Twice he had woken up and lit the lamp to make certain of the briefcase was still there, chained to the bedpost with a rusty chain and padlock that he usually used to secure his old bicycle to the trees in the market. "Ronica," he whispered after the usual night sounds had died and the night had matured to silence. "Can you hear me? What time is it?" His wife turned over and sleepily opened one eye. "Just how do I know a thing like that at this hour?"